she basically just rubbed her boobs on my junk. Okay, so I moved in with Jay. I was like 20. We started dating when I was 19. And the way we hooked up was this. I worked for this landscape company, and I've told the story about this landscape company and how they just did everything wrong. So one of the things they did wrong was failing to maintenance their vehicles. So one day I was in one of these trucks and the brakes weren't working right, and I ended up speeding down this hill. And like, the brakes didn't go out, they just were like, you know, and it was like, so I guess I just preferred not to use them. I don't know. I was like 19, right? So, and this was the first ever moving violation I had ever received. So I go to court. I don't remember why I had to wait so long. I think it was because I wanted to like have my case tried or something, or heard. I was dressed up. I had a pink polo shirt on, the long sleeve, and a pair of like slack shorts. And back then, I didn't have any tattoos at all. There was this court clerk that was just buzzing around back doing all this court stuff. She was freaking cute. And there was nothing else to freaking gawk at. And just staring at a hot chick for a couple hours wasn't creepy back then. I went through the whole thing and I got to the part where I had to pay, and she was right there, and she's like, oh, you don't know how lucky you were? Boy, the judge just never written down, boy, you got it dropped so far, and just, you know, just really chatting up the deal, and I was just like, oh, you know, cool, whatever. So I leave, and she comes outside, and she goes, here, I printed off a copy of your perfect driving record for you. Hey, boy, you just don't know how lucky you are. And I go, well, you know what would make me feel real lucky? And she's all, what? And I go, if you let me take you out on a date. And her response was, I'm old enough to be your mother. Nah, I mean, technically, I guess some chicks can get pregnant like hella young, but I mean, she would have had been like 13. Yeah, that was just that was how it started. And she goes, let me get your number. Well, the landscape company had just given me business cards, and it was like whoosh, and it had the company name on it, because there was no such thing as cell phones back then. I mean, maybe there was such thing, but it was like, there was car phones. So she called and asked for me at the landscape office, and then I had fake ID, and there was this nightclub in Portland, which, I was like a motivated drinker from a pretty young age. So I had fake ID, and I knew what bars really weren't sticklers. So, and I liked to dance. I still do, I just don't ever do it in public. So, but man, I used to freaking love to dance when I was that age. That was one of the things that I would do at these houseboat parties, is turn on the music and start dancing. So I took her to this bar called the Red Sea, which was an Ethiopian restaurant slash nightclub, she basically just rubbed her boobs on my junk. She wanted to make it perfectly clear what she was looking for. And she was like 30 or 31 at the time, which is like the female second coming of their uber horniness. She was a freaking horny chick, let me tell you. And her bloodline makeup was Native American and Irish Welsh. That is like a really bad combination for drinking. Native Americans actually don't have a gene that Caucasian Europeans have, and I think a lot of other races around the world have this gene that enables the metabolism of alcohol. So Native Americans don't have that. Now she probably had that because she had Irish Welsh in her as well. Her life story was pretty interesting. I think she got pregnant at a super young age and then had to give the baby up for adoption. And I think she was, at some point, she was super into drugs or something. But for 7 years, at some point, she was in a Christian rock band. And she was like, at one point, I mean, just church 24/7 person, right? And then she hooks up with me. I'm kind of anti-church. I'm not anti what's going on beyond stuff, but church is a freaking bastardization of reality, in my opinion. Yeah, she had this kind of, I think it was one of those deals where she was just like a party animal, teenager, partied so hard that she got, issues with drugs and had a kid and underage. I mean, just so then she rebounded or revolted against whatever and went to the opposite side of the universe for 7 years. She was in some band, Christian rock band, right? And then I don't know how many years, I think that was maybe like that thing ended for whatever reason, not very long, like maybe a couple years-ish since I met her. She had just got a boob job, probably a few months before I met her. She got a boob job. And I actually stumbled across like the before and after pictures, and the boob job definitely is how she ended up getting to date me. Like that boob job just was amazing. But it was so funny because like she had like not a super early boob job, but it was like, pretty early, and she didn't spend a ton of money on it. But they had these giant scars on the bottoms. I mean, thick, pronounced scars under both of them. That was just like, hello. The funny part was how first night we dated, we hooked up in bed. After we like got down that first time, it was like, she goes, well, I have something to tell you. My boobs aren't real. Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, really? You weren't just randomly attacked and the knife-wielding assailant that just sliced you perfectly? That would be the only other reasonable explanation for two ginormous scars. But anyway, I was pretty much her favorite thing ever. Because I was just good at it, I mean, she literally would just, when we first hooked up, like when I was on house arrest in this apartment, she would bring over gift baskets, like a couple times a week. Like a literal basket. Like a woven nice basket full of, like, I like raspberry jam or jelly or whatever. She would freaking get like the best raspberry jam or the fanciest honey, or, you know, CDs of music that I liked. I mean, I honestly felt kind of like a gigolo to a certain extent, you know, but I didn't really have, I don't know where she had her money from. She owed money to her friend of hers husband for a boob job, and I don't know what else, money or borrowed or savings, or I have no idea. But we dated for a while and then decided to move in together, and we got this little house, and I built this grow room by digging out this hole underneath of this corner of this house and boarding up the actual doorway to that area, and then undoing a few different boards and then making them like a false door. Now, I don't remember what the issue was, but there was some issue where the landlord had to come in after we had already moved in, and I had already done a bunch of work on this thing, and it was a little bit sketchy. So he comes in, and I don't remember what we did, and then all of a sudden, like, he's done and we couldn't find it or something, or I don't remember what the deal was, but he has to go all the way back downstairs, and he goes right to the fake door and looks up in the ceiling, and yeah, it was very weird. I mean, I literally had to put another breaker in that panel to get the power that I needed to run over to the grow room, and I didn't know shit. I put that freaking breaker in that panel without even turning off the main. The first setup was I had a track mover, so the light, one 1,000 watt high pressured sodium light would move back and forth over this crop. And I had this crazy notion of 6 months, veg for 3 months and bud for 3 months. So I had this grow room that was just these giant branches just growing, because I was trellising everything. The whole grow room was only this tall. Like, you know, it was like a half a room high. And so you had like the rocks, and then like that high above the rocks was the trellis where we started pulling stuff sideways. And I mean, I had this thing so dialed in, I could have budded like after a couple weeks, but I went months and months like a freaking, like somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. This is why I never really hit big with the growing thing, because I just had, you know, like the first that, and then the second thing, we had it all dialed in, and it's funny how the universe works. I was using these timers, and we go down to this Oregon Country Fair. Boy, I should tell all my Oregon Country Fair stories. And I'll leave the country fair stories for another time. So the freaking timer goes out. Now, you know, it's just so suspicious. Like back then, like the cops and the feds were just all over grow rooms, and I had been followed at one point because I was selling weed, right? And I had been followed, and I kind of ditched around some blocks to do a little, to see if I was being followed deal, which I used to do quite often. And bam, yeah, I was being followed. I caught him, and I dipped out. And then we had a garage sale or a yard sale, And this dude came over and he like bought a bunch of, like, but it was all just cheap crap, right? And then wants to fuck, oh, here, I'm gonna put it on your porch because I can't take it right now and I'll be back to get it later. What? Yeah, because all they had to do was get a whiff. Oh, I smell weed growing, you know. I had my so good. I had the exhaust was all running through like kind of like a bong of soapy water, so that all the air that left the grow room was basically scrubbed, bubbled through water. So, and I try not to let that much air leave except when it was hot. So he didn't get a whiff, so he couldn't get a warrant. Plain clothes, you know. Fascists.